Okay, excuse me. Hello, YouTube. Nice, windy, cloudy day here, eastern Oklahoma. Tend to have tornadoes and all that good fun stuff. So, just taking a walk and thinking about the word compassion. Okay, kind of a loaded word, and when I talk about compassion, I want to be clear and let it be known that I don't mean the naive form of compassion where people are taking advantage of somebody else's sympathy or anything like that, okay? I'm not talking about being vulnerable to scams and not having any sense of prudence or caution when people are trying to take advantage of you, okay? So, when I think of compassion, I think of this strange sort of suppression of your compassion or not having any compassion due to some sort of kind of machismo that people like to throw around, okay? So, and this tends to be a bigger problem with men than women, I think. As men, we're taught to be competitive, aggressive, and yes, in some endeavors you have to be aggressive and suppress compassion. I'm thinking in terms of saving the life of somebody else, defending somebody from an aggressor. Warfare is a good example. You cannot be compassionate to your enemies when they're trying to destroy and kill you. So, but I'm talking about just seeing somebody else's point of view or perspective. Being able to see somebody else's plight or circumstance and feel a genuine sense of wanting to help make their lives better, make them easier. Sorry, the wind's kind of blowing around. I'm used to my hair being this long and it's messing with me quite a bit. So I find this to be a really strange thing in the West where cruelty almost becomes a more important value than compassion. Where, and I see this mostly being done by weaker men, okay? And what I mean by weak is not necessarily just physically weak. I'm talking about morally weak. I'm talking about men who seem to have nothing else to offer but cruelty, insecurity being projected onto others through, got a softball game going on, little college softball game. I used to like to work out in the gym when those girls showed up. It was a good time. Back in my younger days, of course. Had a lot of fun with the college girls when I was younger. So, anyway, there seems to be this pride that people take in their ability to be cruel to others. Now check this out, I'm going to show you something here. Yeah, a few mushrooms there, kind of sprouting up. We've had lots of rain. I always like this little walk around here. It's got the lichen on the trees and the moss, and it smells good. A few more evergreens. So, anyway, see if I can catch up to my daughter. She's got my dog on a walk. So, you see this with people who are especially weak, especially insecure about themselves. For example, you see it kind of the bar culture, right? Now, I'm not a big fan of going to bars. I think that's a waste of time. I think it's kind of stupid. But I can remember my youth going to those places, and there's always those guys that have to check your shoulder, right? Those guys that think they're tough, and they're projecting. They're insecure about themselves. So I kind of see this culture. I see this in comment sections on social media where people are quick to mock other people for any perceived weakness, and they almost like sort of digitally beat their chest, you know? Like by trolling somebody else and mocking them, they beat their chest as they put them down, especially when it's a serious thing that they might have endured, a serious hardship, a challenge that that person might have overcome. Instead of a word of encouragement, they take pride in tearing that person down. Yeah, it's complete nonsense. It reveals a lot about that person. And the fact that it's become such a prolific part of our culture speaks volumes about our culture. The idea that you're somehow weak because you see a person's point of view or their plight or their difficulties is a very bizarre thing. In my experience, powerful people can oftentimes be the most compassionate. Now, that also depends on how they accumulate their power. We know of all these examples of people who accumulate power and wealth through deception, cruelty, treachery. Politicians are notorious for that sort of thing. And they would be a good example of power gained through maybe using their own insecurities as a tool. They're feeding their insecurities. I mean, and we can think of multiple examples in multiple fields. That business leader who maybe was put down by their parents, who became powerful to sort of show them what they can be, right? Show them how great they can be out of insecurity. Look at situations where world leaders throw their men into death machines, warfare, invade people, harm people, as though that helps some sort of sense of nationalistic pride. You know, there's sort of an arrogance about this. And I'm not singling out any culture. There are a few recent memory that are doing this. All cultures, empires do this thing. And greedy people behind the scenes always reap the rewards of insecurities pushed by others, right? They always do. So insecure, weak people who have no moral background are often the least compassionate. And they're often the ones who see compassion as an obstacle, you know? And I can think, at least to my own experience, I was not taught to be compassionate. I saw this in my kind of boomer parents, right? Animal life was not valued. Cruelty and kind of this hyper competitiveness with others. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with competition. You know, the natural world has a competitive element to it, where we try to reach our best selves and become stronger. I find it's better to try to relate to others and try to see their point of view and maybe help them with that point of view. And I got my little dog here. Let's see, let me see my little puppy. Let me record her. What are you doing? Where you were going? Oh, she don't want me today. She wants to hang out with my daughter, I guess. So, I kind of like this area. I might have to hang out here more often. So, I guess what I'm saying is I find this to be a very bizarre world we're living in, where if you display compassion, you're considered weak. If you display cruelty, it's a positive and you're considered strong. Now, of course, I know that not all people think this way. But it seems to be a common theme. And in my opinion, if you lack compassion, you're a little bit less human. And again, I must reiterate that I don't think this applies to being exploited. Clearly have no compassion for that scammer who's trying to take advantage of you, get your resources by any means necessary. No. There's consequences for that sort of behavior, right? I say, have compassion for those who might be in need, who might need your help sometimes. Whether it's a word of encouragement or help or ideas, compassion is important, especially in this modern world where, and this adds to the point, we're in this modern world where we know people as little images on a screen, okay? We see them as just random strangers online. It's very impersonal. You know, we don't have any personal connections, close connections. We don't form them as easily. Not when our life is dominated by the little screen. So it makes it easier to dehumanize human beings, other people. By doing so, they don't mean nothing. After all, they're just an image on a screen like I am to you right now. And each person you encounter in the world has a backstory. Most have certain traumas that are not due to their mistakes or faults even. Most have been taught illogical or incorrect views of the world. And they're stuck. And many of them don't even know they're stuck. So all those grave faces you walk by, especially in those cities, those urban areas, where every person you see, you must realize that every person you see there has a backstory. Every person you see there has a history, a life. And ultimately, I believe potential, for good or for bad, but being steered for the right potential is good. Having good potential is always correct. So I got a little fumbly here trying to meet up with my puppy. So for example, my little puppy, I hear her whining. She's a great example of what happens when you don't have compassion. Some people left her out. Her and animal cruelty is a big one. And nothing better than having a little friend. All right? So, anyway, see you guys next time. I'm kind of rambling now. Have a good one.